Okay, wow. Right, 1-1. There we go. We're in. We're in. Carlo, how are you doing today, buddy?
Pretty good. Yep. Just starting to get back into getting excited about the World Cup again. So hopefully it's gonna be good.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're gonna straight up say this today, guys. Me and Carlo are both quite tired today. We think we're probably gonna keep it quite a short one, in comparison to what the other ones have been. So you're still gonna probably get a good
Yeah,
hour of us.
they lasted about 2 hours.
I know, right?
Some of them. So.
Um, and let's
Been
face
getting
it,
long, Mickey.
I know, right? But the thing is, this week there's not really a huge amount to talk about, is there? Let's see if I can find the actual right article. Um, there we go. Starks.
Are we going straight on in there with the old Starky boys?
Yeah, we'll go straight into Starks. It's Visions. It's Starks, and then we'll get into other news and things from the week because there's some big things we're going to talk about. And it's Starks. Now, I will be brutally honest. I haven't read these cards yet, so this is news to
Oh, he's
me.
doing a Carlo.
I'm
Fuck
doing a Carlo. This is
God.
complete news to me, okay? I have legitimately no idea what these cards are going to say. Now, as a bit of a lie, I've looked at the units, I haven't looked at the tactics. Let's see who's in chat. We've got Brett. Obviously, great to see you again, Brett. Obviously, commiserations for yesterday's loss. Craig, yeah, 100%. Bruce, nice to see you. And with horses in chat as well. Don't put horses in chat because I'm pretty sure everyone will become your enemy in about 2 months. Targs, man. Targs. And we've got Lockerbie as well, man. Welcome back, Lockerbie. And we've got 11 viewers in total. I've heard through the grapevine that tonight Stannis 1000th Lord Commander might be lurking as a non-logged
Oh
in
dear.
user.
Never.
I know,
Never,
right?
never, never.
Aye. We always berate him for never listening, but he always says he
Man the
watches us.
legend.
He always says he listens to us at work the next day, so I can't complain.
Mickey's
Stephen,
stalling while he quickly tries to read the start cards and
I'm
pretends
not.
to have an opinion
I'm
on them.
looking at YouTube chat over here on like my second monitor. I'm not even looking at the cards yet. Yeah, I got Stephen in the house.
Oh,
Great to see you again, Stephen. And Charles, you're brilliant as well. Mr. Cassier, and of course Bloodraven. Always a pleasure, Camille. Always a pleasure. Right then, should we dive in and actually look at these?
yeah.
So, first of all, we got Winter's Might. Was this the one they showed before? I think it was, wasn't it?
Maybe.
I think it was.
I don't know.
So when you're making an
I don't
attack,
remember that well.
before the attack dice, well, I'm ignore that bit. The trigger is not that important. Gain Sundering, and you can re-roll the attack dice. And after completing an attack, you take 2 wounds, -1 for each destroyed rank.
Yep.
If you control swords, you also roll highest attack die value. This is very similar to something we'll come on to much later on, I believe, in the review. I think we're going to see, is it Starksworn Swords with something similar? So,
Yeah.
Sundering
I
and
mean,
re-roll?
we're gonna see some overlapping triggers, which is new for the Starks, really, actually, because
The
turns out
only
that
overlapping triggers they used to have were Winter is Coming and Dev Impact, right? Which were two of the strongest cards in the deck. And
yeah,
now
exactly. And
they've got
and
all
and
this.
loads of people thought that they weren't even an overlapping trigger because they had such odd wording on them. Some people wrongly played them as a non-overlapping trigger. To be honest, if you just read the cards, you think they're non-overlapping triggers.
Yeah,
So overlapping triggers between this and when we come on to it, the Starksworn Swords, that's going to overlap with their new order, which is now an order, not just a continuous ability. It's going to be a new thing that Stark players are going to have to deal with. They're going to feel a little bit of the Baratheon pain, which is, all right, you want a strong card? Well, we're going to stack it all onto a single trigger then.
definitely. Now, I will actually say, Charles in chat there, Mr. Cassier, Leica on Discord a lot and plays under the moniker Leica. He's been doing a lot of maths, right? Leica does a lot of the maths and stuff. I believe I'm right, correct in saying that, and does a lot of like computational stuff. With in terms of like working out the attack charts and so on, like what's the expected variance and things like that of various different probabilities of things happening. And one of the things he looked at was actually a comparison of some of these things. So I wanted to just give him a little bit of a nod and a shout out there because things like actual analysis of what expected results are from dice rolls is, I know, something that I talk about a lot on streams and stuff when we play games. But I think it is important that we analyze that and we go, right, hang on, what's the expected outcome of these things and compare those expected results, because that's quite an important thing to understand power level.
Absolutely.
So yeah, big shout out to him and obviously everyone else. Um,
Winter's Might. It's all right. It's
Yeah.
pretty decent. Sundering.
Sundering and rerolls
Um,
for 2 wounds.
Sundering and rerolls means that like outside of the charge, it's pretty good value. Like presume there are the new terrain also has ways to stop you from getting rerolls on the charge, right?
Yeah.
So like that has a whole added bonus that you don't have to be disordered to not have your charge rerolls. Your 2 wounds is more consistent than the D3 wounds you used to receive. And I think that's generally more controllable for the Stark player, which is, of course, 2 wounds, 1 wound, 0 wounds.
Yeah.
Practically the same kind of damage that you used to take, but you now know what you're going to take in terms of damage. No randomness coming off of the back of that. And then it becomes pretty good value with the sword's kicker, which is that this attack also rolls high attack value. It's pretty good. I mean, what what I've been saying with the other decks for ages is everybody else seems to be getting this kind of card without the sword kicker. And that's
Yes.
why I was saying their decks, they don't have any zones which help them, and um and like their cards just feel a little bit lackluster. I'm not saying this card's better than other cards in other people's decks, but we're back to this classic. Just take a glance across the page. Swords, horses, swords, horses, horses, swords. Like this deck is built around 2 zones, and I don't understand why other people's zones have been built on 0 zones or 1 zone. And I think that it's much stronger for the Starks to be built on 2 tactic zones than it is to be built on 1 or 0. I think that their kicker effects just push their cards to be more efficient.
Yeah. Definitely. Um, Sebastian chat there, bartender. Yeah. Starks, who cares? As true royalists, we want to hear your take on the Meghan and Harry interview. Um, as true loyalists and royalists that me and Carlo are, have you actually seen the Meghan Markle and Harry interview?
Of course not.
No, I haven't either. I care about zero.
They left the
Like,
royal family. Why would we watch their interview?
who are the royal family? Who gives a shit about them? Except the Queen. She's an absolute boss.
Jesus.
Anyway, right. So yeah, this is okay. It's completely okay. The swords kicker is nice. I think this is exactly the kind of thing you want. Like if you're going into a turn where you've got a unit engaged and you have this in hand, and like you've taken a bit of a beating already, you might be on your like one rank, or may have taken 1 rank's wounds, be on 2 ranks, whatever. This is definitely something you can open the round with, and you just like take swords, hit you really hard with my highest dice rolls from regardless of where I are, and I get a reroll, and I get sundering on top. Like,
Absolutely.
if you give all of that on a swords trigger and you're playing this card, and the worst thing it would ever be is taking 2 wounds, that's fine. If you're
Yeah.
playing it on 1 rank
Or
where you just get to that surprise bump in the face, like that uppercut, that's really good.
Yeah. Or as Brett just, I was just about to say what Brett's put, which is, or you throw it onto some berserkers
Hmm.
who are now going to be rolling their 10 attack dice at their highest ranks. They're going to have their sundering back, and on top of that, you could do one of those charges which I was talking about. Your opponents set this up to think, oh, berserkers are a bit dangerous. I'm going to set it up so they don't get any, they don't get rerolls on the charge. They're going to have to go through fortified or whatever it is that's going to kick that away from them. And then they're just like, bang, I don't care. I'm right in there. I'm rolling 10 dice. I've got sundering. I hit on 3s. I'm re-rolling, and things are going to go bad for you real fast, just like old berserkers. So
Time
need the
to make a
card,
mess.
but the
Yeah,
berserkers only cost you 6 now.
definitely. Anyway, moving on. Northern Ferocity. Again, overlapping trigger. Before making a melee attack before rolling the dice, the attacker gains vicious. So not sundering, but yet vicious this time. And then if the defender fails the test, they suffer an extra wound, but each of the attackers destroyed ranks. So this is quite good at finishing off like free folk, for example. Certainly raiders. After completing this attack, you suffer the wounds with no kicker.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is okay. Like, this is fine. This is what the new panic mechanic seems to be, where you take bonus wounds and things. I think this is
Yeah.
a really average card. I'm
Yeah. I
not a
mean,
fan of going in on panic, because panic is such a pass or fail mechanic, right? It's either you pass
yeah.
or you fail. There's no scalability to it. So I don't like
Yeah.
this one as much as Winter's might. Um,
yeah, it's probably not as strong. Panic damage itself has been reduced. This will help bump it back up a little bit. Um, if you're on 2 ranks, obviously, if you're on 1 rank, you've got nothing to lose. If you're
Oh,
on two,
100%.
you're like, well, I'm only taking a wound. You might regret it if you just throw this card out there if when you attack on full ranks against somebody who has pretty good morale. Like they're not actually gonna have anything happen to them. They'll pass the morale check anyway. Or you're taking a big risk for 2 wounds yourself. So it's not as just obviously, yeah, why not use it as Winter's Might is, particularly if Winter's Might brings swords and stuff like that. But yeah, they're fine. The pair of them are fine. They have their different places. They have their different uses. They're absolutely like they're just
They're just
yeah,
average
like
cards. Just
it,
like, yeah, good.
they're just average cards, which
Yeah.
is something that the Starks aren't used to. So let's see if they get used to it.
I will go as far as saying though that Northern Ferocity for those players like this card is really good against Morale 6 armies, Morale 7 armies, because
Hmm.
although that's not traditionally high, like bad morale, pushing people off 7, taking them the other side of 7, taking them to 8 or higher,
Yeah,
is a significant increased chance that they fail. It's
yeah,
18. I was talking about this last night with Deoxys. It's an 18% chance difference between going from
yeah.
6 to 7 and 7 to 8. Right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, six,
it's
7, and 8 just make up the vast majority of the rolls. Turning a 7 into a 9, turning a 6 into an 8, like even turning a 5 into a 7, they all have like that 2 change of vicious can be huge.
yeah.
When you turn an 8 into a 10, it doesn't really change anything.
No,
But it's big when you put it onto just like average units who are like hoping to mostly pass their test.
definitely.
Yeah,
So
average card,
yeah,
fine. It's fine.
average card, and then next we see Dev Impact, right? We've seen this before in Tormund, I believe, had this exact same card. When you're charging, before you roll the target dice, the enemy becomes panicked and vulnerable, and if you get the horses, you get to reroll. This is a much better version of Dev Impact, getting the reroll from the horses, kind of like the old Swift Advance style coming in. It's getting rid of the auto reroll, and it gives out tokens, which is something that people, something that they developers are clearly trying to add more to the game, where token play and token interaction, certainly placing tokens and being able to do things with them, is something they
Yeah.
want to see more of. Um, Absolutely fine. No problems with that card. It's just a okay card.
Two tokens is pretty powerful. If it was one or the other, you'd think, nah, I'm not overly sold on it. I really need to get that horse's reroll before I care about this card. But 2 tokens can be quite impactful. And so yeah, another one just like pretty good. Yeah, I'm not telling you it's a Targ level card, but it's not an old Stark level card, but it's fine. It's a
Yeah,
good card.
definitely. In answer to, I've just been reading chat there. Hobbit, Hobbit. Yes, they are going to be download for free now. Actually, they might not be available to download for free. Necessarily completely free, but you will be able to print them. In case you aren't aware, once the War Council app gets updated, all of the assets and cards and everything within War Council is available as free use. It's standard for Android apps to do that. So you can download all the images and assets and things like that, and you can still print them for free. So even if they don't legitimately print them and say, "Hey, look, here's the for free," it is a known thing where you can still get them if that's an issue. So they'll probably just end up doing a pre-release. They have done it before with 1.5, right? They actually did a nice them. They did them on an A4 sheet where you could print them off and
Yeah.
do them that way. So yeah, 100% they'll probably do something like that. And as Brett says, print and play is available. And Brett knows more than I do at this point. Brett is involved within the circle, if you will. Talks to Fabio and well, certainly I don't know
Secret
much about Michael.
societies.
He does talk to Fabio quite a lot, so which is great to hear as well. It's great to hear that print and play is coming us back as well. I think that's such a good thing for updates like this. Yeah, cool. Old Doxies, big man, is here again. Have you been to sleep yet? I don't know anymore. Old Busted versus New Hotness. Yeah. Right, next up, the North remembers. This is not the North remembers. The North does not
No,
remember.
but No, but it's
um,
the same. It's the same format that we see all
yeah.
on destruction cards now taking.
Yep.
Yeah, so good to see that Starks aren't just going to get their own their own special version.
Exactly. So friendly unit dies, you put it on a cavalry and infantry unit. Interestingly, it's infantry or cavalry, which means
Mhm.
that dire wolves, I think, are classified as monsters. You can't put it on a dire wolf. Um,
Yeah.
and when they have the tard, you always attack using its highest dice value. Well, that's why you wouldn't put it on a monster anyway. And while you control the swords, counters rolling 6 for all charge distance dice. I like that because again, it is somewhat it's observable. It's something that you can see on the board and counteract. Now, do I think this is strong? Holy hell, yes, this is good.
So what I'm keep coming back to, and I'm trying not to harp on about it,
Yeah,
but all the recent starter friendly turn things that we've seen is put it on, gain 1 token, gain amazing fucking effect. Why was the Baratheon one, the people who are supposed to be about revenge mechanics, gain 1 token, gain fuck all, gain another token, gain something slightly better? Like, why? Why have they been totally shafted on what is now becoming common? That it's just like put a token on, gain everything. I mean, it is Baratheons, right? Where it's 1 token is jag all,
no, no,
and
no, it's
2
not
is
Baratheon.
all right. Maybe it's
It's
neutrals.
neutral. It's neutral. It's 100% neutral. Let's have a little look. Don't
But
use.
like, why does theirs not follow the mechanic that everybody else is followed,
Yeah,
which is just a token, get abilities?
they get a vulnerable, and then they get a +1 to hit at 2 tokens. The +1 to hit
I,
would be
I,
amazing with a vulnerable token together. Perhaps too strong.
maybe. Northern
Um,
members looks way strong. Like, it's
Auto 6.
still right
Auto
up
6.
there as the best possible things that you can have for an on death mechanic. So,
Yeah,
it's the better. It's probably it's revenge mechanics. We'll have to see how well these cards play in general, but it seems the others were all fine. This one seems good. This is a good card.
definitely. Winter is coming then. Now, this is a bit of a strange one because Winter is coming. When a friendly unit is performing a charge action before rolling attack die, a charge distance die, sorry. Which, by the way, can we just finally take a moment of solace and look at the trigger for devastating impact and the trigger for Winter is coming, and realize that those 3 lines of text that are for the trigger are identical, word for word identical. They have finally fixed the problem. Thank you, Fabio. Thank you. Well, it's going to be Michael, but mainly Fabio. Thank you very much, Fabio, for finally resolving this problem. Because even though you issued an FAQ about it, it came up in every single tournament I've ever played in. Um, I'm just so glad they fixed the trigger. It just makes it so much easier. The card itself, though, enemies successfully charged by this cannot be the target of friendly orders or tactics cards this turn. Ah, goddamn. Because there's a moment of absolute grace and standard, and we like to shit on Seamon here. Not too much, of course. They make a brilliant game, but we couldn't just let them get away scot free and say it was completely amazing. They use that word target. This is a problem, right? There's already
Can
been a
we have
discussion.
a proper definition of target, please?
Like,
I still don't believe there's a definition of what target means in the rule book.
yeah. Um, it's. I really just wish they'd define target in the rulebook properly, because the FAQ and the
Mhm.
errata kind of did something, but it fixed it in one way, but everyone read it and was super confused in other ways, and they were like, "Hang on, well, how does it work with these things?" And it didn't really fix the problem. It just solved some of them and created other ones. Just give us a
But
definition of target in the rulebook.
here we
Easy.
are. Here we
Yeah.
are. We got Winter's Might Northern Frosty. Same card, different flavor. Devastating Impact. Winter is coming. Same card, different flavor. This one's so much so that they even have identical horse kickers
Hmm.
of this unit re-rolls any charge distance dice. That's, I guess, because they don't want you to feel like one's just better than the other. Maybe, like, oh, I didn't play it because I wanted the charge reroll, but what I really wanted was the winter is coming effect kind of thing. Um,
I don't
I
like it
I
actually.
I don't know the other decks well enough yet to know whether or not you need to turn off orders and tactics. We'll see. Winter is coming will definitely have some value against some things, but overall, I think Devastating Impact is just a higher value card. I think.
Yeah, definitely. Um, a unit originating a card trigger is the target. Yeah, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Because you could argue Lannister supremacy. Lannister supremacy, for example, does target the guardsmen because when this unit is attacked, trappers doesn't target the trappers at all. Like the trappers can use the order of traps on you charging because they're not the target. You're the target of traps, not them. um. So anyway, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
weird and wonderful
We'll
thing.
see.
Um. If you control horses, you reroll the charges dice, as you say. It's exactly the same thing. It adds a gambit effect right in because as the opponent, you see Starks are taking horses, and you have to be like, right, are they going to turn off my orders of tactics, or are they going to be panicking and vulnerable to me? And it's an element of skill cap there because obviously, good players will play the right one for the right situation. I'm not saying it's super high level skill to know which one's right for the right situation. The reason I don't actually like this is that it's the same trigger and they said they were going to try and make cards easier to play, and by definition, giving everything to the same triggers actually kind of makes them harder to play because you can't play all of them. Imagine your hand was three of these: Dev Impact, Winter is Coming,
Yeah.
Dev Impact.
It is really odd that they like acknowledged that people hated the fact that the Baratheon deck had overlapping triggers, and they've sort of gone, all right, let's give them to Starks. Like, I mean, they were like, okay, we can't give Baratheons overlapping triggers. We've got to make them practically all unique, much easier to use. And then they've gone, all right, so let's just double up all the cards in the Stark deck. Like you already have two copies of every card. You can already easily end up with two versions of one card in your hand when four of your 20 cards all share the same trigger, and that happens twice. That can be the melee attack trigger or the charge trigger, and yes, they're common actions. It's not massively hard to see yourself using them, but it's easy for you to have too many cards in your hand to play in a turn because they're just overlapping. They're just overlapping, and I thought that they were going to do something. I thought they were just going to get rid of that effect. Like, I'm just surprised. I don't. I'm not like these are bad cards. I'm just really surprised that they outright said that they think that ethos was making people not like playing Baratheons, and then they just gave it to a different faction instead.
I just like to point out, it turns out we're wrong. They have defined target in the rulebook, apparently. We will go back and read that. I'm not going to go into the definition of target and go down that rabbit hole because that'll take us about half an hour. But we will go back and read that, and obviously, I'm sure me and Carlo will talk about what we think, and Carlo will no doubt come to a conclusion before any tournaments that he runs for 1.7. Nah. Let the players deal with it. Anyway, next up, Swift Reposition. Again, hello Targs 2021, because Starks have got one of your cards, buddy. Shift 2 inches,
Swift Advance.
horses. Yeah, it's
2021 Swift Advance.
2021 Swift
Fine.
Advance. Yeah, fine. Move
Fine.
on. Assault Orders. That's a card we've seen before. When a friendly NCU claims a zone, you replace it with an attack action, and if it's swords, it can be a charge action instead.
Pretty big.
Yeah, it's great.
It's not quite sudden charge, but I mean,
It
on the
nearly is.
power curve of new cards, it's up there.
Yeah, it nearly is. Is this really good? Is it just okay? I'm actually going to straight say it's just okay. It's just okay because we see Greyjoy. Victarion has this exact card, right? And it's not groundbreaking in Greyjoys at the moment. Greyjoys aren't breaking the game apart because of assault orders, right? It's
True,
just
but,
an okay card.
You're comparing a commander card, which generally should be considered at the high end of high end of cards with
Oh,
a
sure.
base tactics deck card.
Sure,
That it's
sure.
in there means that you have to constantly be worried about leaving that zone open
Completely agree.
or leaving any zone open later into the round, which then again tells me if you play Starks into Starks, like you want to be playing 3 NCUs to like deny zones even if you don't want them yourself.
Standard. Deny the zones. All right, yeah. So fine. You know what? After we say the 7 cards, like they're not even bad cards, but I'm not coming away from that looking at that deck thinking like. But I'm also not kind of
Okay,
like.
but like we've seen Targaryen. Like
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
we've seen the Targaryen deck. Everything looks bad by comparison.
But
It's fine.
the
It's
fu-
like it's
the funny thing
okay.
is, the
Might
funny
even
thing
be the
is,
second best deck.
it
It
could
might
even
be
be
the
the
second
second.
best.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's so far behind Targaryens that you're like, yeah, but it's okay.
This
You know,
is.
that's
I look at
how
this.
good the Targ deck is.
There's literally nothing here that makes me go, wow. It's all just kind of like, yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good. I'm just, I think the word I would use is content. This deck just makes
Yeah.
me content. There's
I'm
nothing more to say
content
about it.
as a non-Stark player. I would hope that I would be content as a Stark player. You know, I'm happy that you still have your movement. You still have your movement. You still have your aggression. You still have one of the strongest revenge identities out there. That your killers were gonna do something about it. You're still an aggressive faction, but you're not just better than everybody else, or at least not
Dunking on
from the
people.
cards perspective.
Dunking on people left, right, and centre because it's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
we're Starks and we can. Um, yeah, no, yeah, definitely agree. And then we look at Rob's cards. Now, in case anyone's not aware, I will see if I've got. That's not the right page. That's definitely not the right page. Let's get to the power ranking slowly, quickly. Starks, yeah, they're only in second place right now. Rob has fallen to third. Interesting fact.
Yeah.
Behind Mother of Dragons. Gonna happen. But Rob is the third best commander currently, right? We are talking about the best on-field commander, pretty much, aside from Mother of Dragons, in the game right now.
Mm-hmm.
His tactics cards, and he's been released. So let's have a little look. Sudden retreat. After an enemy completes a melee attack, target the defender. Alright, so straight away, I love this card because it is clearly defined what target is in this card alone.
Yeah.
Target the defender. Like, I think going back to when I was talking about targeting and things like that before, why, if your target rules are that well written, does your card, Sudden Retreat, need to very explicitly tell you who it's targeting?
Mm.
This is
Yeah, I mean,
in.
I don't
I
want
don't
to
know.
harp on about it, but
No.
like, if some cards are going to tell you who to target, all cards should tell you who to target.
Yes.
Like, either
Consistency.
target is obvious, or every card should just begin with, this should just be when performing a unit, when a friendly unit is performing a melee attack, before rolling attack dice, bang, insert target the attacker.
Yep.
That now you know what is being targeted, like, and actually it would clear things up, and this card shows the format that I wish all cards followed. It's not part of the trigger, it just is the first line of every card. It just says, I target this.
Yep.
And that would make everything so clear.
Yeah, it's actually, Craig points out, it is actually different than the Targ card, which doesn't say that. Ah! Frustration
This
boils
card will
over.
target both attacker and defender as per the rules. Oh my god, like I don't even want to know. I don't even want to look for that.
I know.
I don't even want to try and understand what you mean by that.
But it
I don't
should.
even know if you're talking about sudden retreat or if you're talking about, are you talking about Winter's Might? Like,
Yeah. So this is the problem, right? This card should explicitly only target the defender because it says it in the. I just wish they'd just fix it. God. Right. Anyway, they perform one retreat action. Fair enough. If it targets Rob, it can re-roll the retreat distance die. Absolutely fine. Is this still a good card? Okay, it's an okay card. It's better. It's worse, sorry, than TAC Regroup, right? TAC Regroup, Rob's old
Yeah,
card, was
straight at worst.
obscene. Um, it enabled Tully Cav, it enabled anything you wanted, pretty much, just constantly charging in, charging in, charging in. This enables, doesn't enable that, but still enables something similar, which I like. Things like
Yeah,
the Kranigman,
definitive downgrade.
yeah,
Definitive downgrade for
yeah.
tactical regroup to become sudden retreat. Like it, they're not in they're not in the same field of just like abusing abusing units who can't do anything about it.
Um, so that's sudden retreat. Absolutely fine. Superior positioning, it is basically similar but not at all, right? When an enemy performs a charge action before resolving the action, right? If that enemy charges a unit in the front, they suffer a disorderly charge on 3 or less.
Mm-hmm.
If they suffer a disorderly charge, they become vulnerable. So interestingly here, they it's two things, and I wish they'd put a little gap in there, to be honest, personally. But if you charge enemy in the front, you get a disorderly on a 3 or less. If you roll a disorderly charge, so if you're attacking the flank or rear and still roll
Yeah.
a 1, or it's a disorderly charge through other
Yeah.
means, you become
Yeah.
vulnerable. Yeah? That's the important thing to note here. It's just there's this condition in the front that you're more likely to get a disorderly charge, but the effect, which is actually the vulnerable charge bit, that's what the card is actually doing, will actually
Yeah.
play off regardless of whether or not you charge the front or not. That's very similar to the old superior positioning, right? Where Rob used
Mhm.
to
But
shift, but
no
it was like a
guarantees
1 or
now.
2. But yeah, there's no guarantee. Fine, it's completely fine. I don't mind this.
Yeah, I don't think it's any. I think it's a downgrade from what he used to have. It
Yep.
used to be kind of abusive. The movement that you used to be able to do, and it also got us into loads of really hot water of like, I've declared a charge, but now you've put yourself in an illegal charge position. So what do I do now? Because I've already gone past this trigger, which was check whether or not my charge is legal. So now what do I do now that I don't have any legal charges, but I've already declared a charge? This, of course, it doesn't do any of that. It just has a disorderly thing on it. It's not guaranteed, but it's got the extra vulnerable bit. Yeah, it's fine. Like it could come in clutch, but you got 50-50 on it. It's just a throwaway card in my opinion. I don't think you're keeping it for any really specific thing. Just somebody declares a charge, just like, all right, 50-50 disorderly.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and the vulnerable is just nice. The vulnerable is not required. I don't think the vulnerable's brilliant. Like on top of it, it's just a nice little thing to have as a little kicker. It makes your attack back a little
Mhm.
bit better, and it kind of doubles down with like you're gonna hit less, and then when I hit you, it's gonna hurt more. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
If you use terrain to force your opponent to roll 2 dice, of course, it's actually like almost guaranteed. This well, not guaranteed, but they're rolling 2 dice now. Either of them are a 3 or less. We're actually talking, like they've only got a 25% chance that they're not a disordered charge, and that means that the majority of the time they're going to be disordered and they're going to be vulnerable.
I
It's
think
got good value when used right,
I
and
think the
to be
new
honest, it's got some throwaway value when used wrong.
I think the new the terrain rules means there are no terrain where you roll 2 dice anymore. I think it's just auto lose the attack
Oh,
roll,
is
isn't
there
it?
not?
Yeah,
I haven't
I
looked
think.
closely enough at the terrain rules.
I've only played 1 or 2 games of
I'll broach the
1.7.
2021 rulebook when I actually want to either run or play in an event that runs 2021.
Or code it on the site. Next one up is hit and run. After a friendly unit completes a melee attack, so we've seen this before. If the unit began the turn engaged with the defender, they perform one retreat action. If the target's Rob's unit, each enemy they disengage from becomes weakened. I don't like this card again because it's not the condition to play the card is not the same as the
Isn't actually the
conditions.
condition to play the card.
Yes, I
Isn't actually the condition to use the card. To play the
effectively
card isn't
yes,
to use the card. Like you
yes.
can play the card and have no effect. Yeah, I yeah, it seems bad actually. Basically, hit and runs effect, hit and runs use. The time that it actually saw play, 99% of the time, was okay. We're still like jockeying for position. Nobody wants to fully engage yet. All right, I'll do a charge and retreat, please, and I'll just do like a bit of damage. It's not my attack, which I know is going to kill you, which is why I want to retreat off the back of it. People used it overwhelming majority for charge and bounce away, not okay, I'm engaged, I want to attack and then get away. It's going to have more value for like I was going to retreat anyway, but I might as well get an attack out of it. But downgrade.
I I can Yeah, I mean, I get that, Francesco. They don't want to mix the trigger with the conditions to play the card. I get that, but you want to have because that's something we used to complain about before. The triggers are too complicated. But the problem is that you want to make triggers simple, but you also want to make the effects simple as well, right? That's a thing. The effects being complicated and having like what we call loops through loops through loops, um, those kinds of things are by definition bad. They are bad design because they are always difficult to jump through the hoops. Um, the more hoops you put and the more like layers of the card that there become, the harder it is to achieve good design and good play. And more importantly, players don't like it. That's actually a simple truth. Players don't like it. The more loops you put in. But yeah, I
Or
do
maybe we
agree.
just don't like it, Mickey.
Maybe we. But I mean, you've only got to see
Nah, but
the old free folk deck used to have it
it,
loads. People didn't like
people
distraction
people are
tactics and
talking
this, that, and the
about
other.
people are talking about whether or not hit and run should be like that. I guess they determined it's too powerful in its own way. I never thought that it was too powerful. Some units did sort of like abuse it, but it's not like they were like really cheap units that were abusing it. I think
What I like,
it's fine. Yeah, I understand it. I understand it that that's not the way they wanted it to function. But hit and run really sounds like you were supposed to charge, hit, and then run before the opponent and evade before the opponent did something, and instead we actually just get like a retreat, retreat from protracted combat kind of thing.
I can
It'd have a better name of like orderly retreat or something like that,
swift
rather than
retreat,
hit and run.
swift retreat, or something like that. I actually think that this card is going to be. I mean, it's a clear indicator that Starks should be trying to out-activate their opponent because you play this with a late activation charge in a round. You get engaged with a unit. You play a card on the charge, whatever, like a Dev Impact or a Winter is Coming to get involved. Then the very first thing you do is take swords on the next turn, knowing that it can't be stopped. You play one of your cards like Winter is Might or Northern Ferocity on the swords kicker, and probably Winter's Might. Get that swords kicker attack, smash them in the face, then play hit and run, get out of there, and you've just effectively done 2 hits in a row with no way of no return. And you only play hit and run, of course, if the unit's still alive. If the unit's not alive at that point, well, it doesn't matter. They're dead. You're not retreating from
You get
anything.
a retreat anyway, and it's called Surge Forth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I can see that's how it's supposed to be used.
Bruce. It's called hit and run, not run, hit and run. Yeah, true.
That is true.
True. All right, you got me. You got me.
So yeah, I mean, overall, Rob's cards they've clearly been tuned down, right? There's no bones about these cards
No
are
doubt.
just worse. They are just worse across the board, but they're still okay. I don't think
Yeah,
I'd
they're
call them
fine.
good. I don't think I'd go as far as calling them good. I'd definitely put them at a middle of the road, like 6 out of 10, maybe. They're okay, you know. But I'm not right.
Francesco thinks everybody will be playing at 8 activations.
Yeah, I can
I
feel.
probably I'd say oh sweet summer child. Like, like they might have fixed some things, but I think some things are gonna get through some things are gonna make them get through the cracks.
And I think some
And
factions will not run
I'm
8.
pretty sure
Some factions will only
yeah,
be
I'm
effective at
sure
7.
that there are plenty of factions out there who will play at 9. Who'll play at 9. 8 will be people will still believe that 8 is this thing that you're trying to get to when actually my early predictions are that competitively speaking, 8 will still be considered the minimum, and then there will be some people playing on 9, and Free Folk maybe at 10, but probably not. I haven't
No.
looked exactly at what
I mean,
their options are.
there's no way you'd run Free
Yeah,
Folk at 10 because we don't currently know of a
no, yeah, not
3-point activation. And you're not going to take everything at 4 because that means everything Raiders, maybe Trappers, and 4-point NCUs. And I don't know about you, but I'm not running Raiders that many. That's sad.
I
Anyway,
mean, Brett says 6 to 8 was standard, but I mean, I don't know who the fuck was playing 6. Like,
Targaryens,
it's
Targaryen vets, they
yeah.
can just delete a unit every turn. You can
What can I
run
say?
3, just run 3 vets and just win the game. Anyway, no, it's not worth it. Right, Great Axes at 7 points. There was a lot of debate about these guys. 5 movement. I think that's an increase.
No,
They were 4 recently, and they've gone back up to 5. So that's a buff, I believe.
they changed so many times. I don't. I think there were 5. I think last time, I don't know. Nobody puts them on the table. There were 4 at some point, but I think they were just
I've got them here.
5 most recent.
Let's have a little look. Are they cards, aren't they? And they're a unit card. Let's have a
So
little look
you
at
have
Great Axes.
Sundering, but you do more wounds on panic tests. So it's an odd one. They can't really decide if they're supposed to crack armor or cause panic damage. It's fine because you have cards which help, except that one of the cards that helps gives Sundering. So that's not helpful to you. You're overlapping with Winter's Might, which one of your better offensive cards. You can add Vicious to yourself, which gives you Vicious plus additional wounds. Unyielding, -1 wound for failing panic tests for each one that you destroyed ranks. You've also got 5 morale. That's new, right? They used to have 6.
Yep, so we can see the stats there on screen. They were 4 movement, they were 6 morale, 4 plus save. So save is the same, they've had an improvement in the morale and the movement. Movement and morale have both been made better. But they've lost an attack dice. Well, they've had the attack reshuffle, right? The attacks are a completely different thing to talk about, really. But yeah.
Yeah. I don't think they're worth 7 points. Like, I'm struggling to find it. They're quite utility. They have a bit of a toolbox of like these cards could help them. Maybe even somebody's gonna come. Fucking Discord. Somebody's gonna come out and say, "I'm gonna stick this 2-point attachment in them. Look how amazing they are." And I'll be like, "They're 9 points, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like, they better kill multiple units in a game, and you're not going to." I think these are the one thing that points out to me in this whole thing, which is like, you're not worth it. You're still not going to see play.
I know Lyca's still around in chat. He did the maths on it, and the damage output of Great Axes is not considerably different to Starksworn Swords. The only difference is, of course, the Starksworn Swords have the order of Stark Fury now, which is what we'll get onto in a second, rather than it being a continuous thing. But yeah, it.
If they both fight each other, it's pretty close who wins, right?
Yeah.
Is the point.
Yeah.
So, not interested. Like,
No, not really.
It seems to be like 5-point units. We'll come on to the Starksworn Swords, but 5-point units seem to have like leveled out a bit. They seem to have like got quite consistent. But things up at 7 and 8, some of them are like, you're like, holy shit, yeah, I'll pay for that. And then others you're like, nah, you don't do anything. Like, you don't do like just the same the way that we mostly consider now. There are tons of like 8, 9, and 10-point units in the game where we're like, you don't do anything to warrant being that many points. Like, you don't do enough, you don't bring enough to the table. Exactly here, they don't bring 2 points more to the table than Starksworn Swords, in my opinion.
Yeah, not in the way that we play the game, right? That's the difference. Like, you can look at all the stat increases and you can look and say, oh yeah, but they are better. And yeah, there's a lot of bonuses that you get for taking out Great Axes over Starksworn Swords. There's a lot of extra stuff there. But the important thing when we're analysing it from a competitive level is, are those extra things actually relevant to the gameplay? It's not just, are those extra things worth it, but are those things actually relevant in the way the game is played? And You can look at units which are like, yeah, this is a more expensive unit than this. It's clearly better, but actually you can definitively say yes, but the way the game is played, it doesn't offer me anything more than that other unit does. And then you've got to talk about activation advantage as well coming into that. So moving on, the Stark Sworn Swords. We'd already seen the attack profile. It was in the rulebook, I believe. It was 754. This has become standard, it seems, like a relatively standard attack line. 4+, 4 armor, 6 morale, which is unchanged. 5 movement, unchanged. Stark Fury is now an order. It's also not even tied to their attack, bearing in mind. You remember Stark Fury used to be their attack name? Now it is called Longsword, with the ability Stark Fury. When this unit performs a melee attack before on attack dice, you gain crit blow and sundering, and you suffer 2 wounds, -1 for each destroyed rank. So it is effectively Winter's Might, but gaining crit blow and sundering rather than sundering and whatever the extra one, like +1 to hit or whatever. So, or reroll,
shares with
those
with
cards
Winter's
as well.
Might and with Northern Frosty, so there's no combo there.
Yep.
You can't have them both. I mean, the massive thing, yes, it's an order, which is big because it stops the duplication of those cards, the stacking of also throwing in a vicious on top and blah 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 blah. But the big thing is it doesn't give +1 to hit.
No.
So they're a 4+ to hit unit like everybody else now. You know, that's the huge change to this unit.
Yep.
And I think they're fine at 5 points. Like, you know, like they're better than better than Cutthroats.
Yep.
Not hard to be, but they're better than Cutthroats. But they don't feel obscene anymore. They don't feel like a 5-point unit that just destroys 6s and 7s, and even some 8s are scared of them. It's just a 5-point unit, and that's really good.
Yeah, and again from the Stark side of it, consistency, right? The attack is always consistent. You know exactly what you're paying when you're making the attack. This is strictly better. Yes, you might end up right. You roll a d3 and you only roll a 1. You're like, I've only taken 1 wound, haha. But knowing what the roll is, if I tell you before the game that roll you're about to make on that d3 is this number, you can play around that. You know how to play around that, and that is way better than not knowing it. In reference to tomorrow's game, because I think Brett is no doubt still listening, it'll just be an 11 on the panic check. Anyway, so Stark Sworn Swords, 5 points, fine. Again, I'm not looking at them thinking like, blow my mind, good. They're just good. Say they're on the top end of the stuff we've seen, but they're good.
Yeah.
Greywind.
I think I'm way more likely to tend towards Berserkers at 6.
Yep.
But I'm not telling you the Stark Sworn Swords are bad. Just I still think that the Berserkers, I think I'd rather have Berserkers than the 7-point Great Axes. Like actually, I'd rather have them at the same price range. And I think I'd rather have Berserkers than the Stark Sworn Swords. We'll have to see exactly where their list building point, like how many points they have spare here and there. But my assumption again is like you'd rather have Berserkers at 6 than put a 1-point attachment in somebody else. Like probably, I'd guess. We'll see exactly what happens. But Stark Sworn Swords are fine. They're fine. They're they're back into the middle of the pack of the curve of what's happening, rather than being this absolute horrible outlier of just being like spammed in some armies and being terribly dangerous to anybody with low saves.
Yeah. Next up on the list, we've got a wolf. We've got Greywind, and this sets a precedent that I hope will be true for all wolves. We don't know that yet. But, Carlo, we, many moons ago, said that when Jorah was first revealed, way back in Christmas time, wolves are going to be 3 points. Because activations, Jorah's 3 points. The Watch Captain is the Watch Captain, isn't it? Is a 3-point attachment to give you an activation. It was clear from us at that point. Wolves have just got to be 3 points. It just makes sense.
They have to be.
They had to be. And
I mean, like
He's 3
This
points.
is almost not even a discussion. Like it
No.
had to be 3 points. There was nowhere else it could be.
Unless they made it way better and made it 4 points or something like that, but that's a different. That's no longer
Yeah.
the Wolves that we know. Um,
Yeah.
have they made Wolves better? Yeah, yeah, they have. Yeah, this is a 3 point unit you want to take, right? Greywind here posting up 6 movement still, 3+ to hit with 4 dice, so he's knocking off the 2+ to hit, but gaining 2 extra dice. That's really good. 4 armor
Mhm.
rather than the 3. Something myself and you talk a lot about on streams and things before is that the problem with a 2 wound solo with a 3+ armor save is that either it dies in one attack or
Yeah.
it's impossible to kill. It was too like just dead or not dead. And if you had effects the likes of
Yeah.
Walder, Axel, they just disappeared from the game.
Yeah.
A Grey
Auto
Wind
wounds
like
was there.
this, yes,
Weak attacks couldn't chip away at it
yeah,
unless you were just going to play the casino dice of like, can you get your opponent to roll ones and twos?
exactly. So is lowering the armor but increasing the wounds is actually a much better way. It's a much more granular way of
Yeah.
dealing with the wolf. Does that mean the wolf will die more or die less? No, he should probably die at roughly the same rate. The difference is that your opponent can feel like they're making progress in killing the wolf, rather than just, oh, I didn't kill it this time. uh,
And
you know,
and and he's a viable target for money bags when he comes close to being
yeah,
dead. And you know what I mean? Like both players get to have some interaction as this model starts to die, and like to burst through it, just like a unit which has 12 wounds. You bring it down, you bring it up, you do damage, you heal damage. At 2 wounds, it was just like boom, you're gone.
yeah,
Or okay, he's still alive. 4 at 4+, just way more consistent. I mean, let's not overlook though. Disrupt. Hello.
yeah. Well,
Minus to hit.
Greywind brings disrupt at -1 to hit. Sure, whatever.
Enemies engaged with this unit suffer -1 to hit. Not just when they attack him, but they just suffer -1 to hit. It's a pretty big ability, and it stacks with agile, right?
Yeah.
Totally different name, even a different effect. It's a little bit makes me a bit nervous, you know. But I
Well,
guess it means, I mean, it's gonna work how it says, which means when he's there, you're gonna have to attack him. Because if you try and attack other people, you're gonna be frustrated, particularly if Howland, what's Howland's words again? Does
I'm
Howland disrupt?
literally just trying to find Howland as we speak. No, it's not.
Brilliant. And what was Howland? You give the unit -1 to hit.
I think so.
So currently, I can give the unit -1 to hit it with an agile unit. That's -2 if I try to attack the agile unit. And then if I threw Greywind in there too, you're at -2 to hit all the time. And then if
Hunt
I try to attack the agile unit, I'm at a -3.
Hunter's
It
Guile.
feels,
Hunter's Guile is the NCU version of Howland Reed for 5 points, which is just a -1 to hit. Yeah. Influence.
and it's given to the unit.
Yeah.
I I don't like. I know we're talking about the extreme there of these three things stacked up, but I don't like that they exist under three separate keywords that stack. That's really bad. That's gonna be so feels bad if you got a 3+ to hit unit and it's hitting on sixes now.
Carlo, how does a 4+ unit attack with a -3? There are no.
Isn't a six always a hit?
I
I do
don't
think a
know.
six is always a hit.
I don't
I'm
know.
hope. I think.
I
I
genuinely
think a
don't know
six is
that.
always considered a success. A single six is always considered a success, and a single one is always considered a failure.
You've never.
But you can pass a double one. No, 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 yeah. I'm sure it is because when Unsullied first came out and they were 2+ to hit, there was ways to give them +1 to hit, but it doesn't make you automatically hit. You still have to roll 2+.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, I am
But
actually
you
going to
don't
try
know
and
if
find it.
six is automatically hit.
Yeah, they've never.
No, it is because armor
Yeah,
saves,
no, it is.
6 up armor save with Sundering
Yeah.
are still 6 up armor saves. 6 up to
Yes.
hit
Yeah.
with -1 to hit, or 4+ to hit with a -3 to hit is still 6 up to hit.
It does explicitly
Yeah,
say that
six,
in the rules. It does explicitly
sixes are
say that
always
in
accepted.
the
So
rules.
we're at least safe for that.
Yeah.
This does, and Howland and Agile and Disrupt absolutely shit on 4+s. And if you stack them all, they even shit on 3+s. But okay, that's an extreme situation. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I am nervous for sheer amount of the sheer amount of keywords that Starks look to be getting with this stackable -1.
You know what's fine though? You know what's absolutely fine? Most of those effects only target units that are engaged with them, so just shoot them. In fact, wouldn't it be really good if you had horse archers run around infantry and shoot them so you didn't take the -1s? Is there a faction with horse archers that can run around infantry units and shoot them? Anyway, we'll move on from that.
Going 3 points, I think that he's still very powerful and useful at 3 points.
Yes,
He's got less things that can remotely kill him now. Both because Wilder doesn't exist anymore, but also because he has 4 wounds, which is significantly harder to remote kill. I think that if you were taking Rob, there's no reason why you wouldn't buy Greywind.
pretty much. Certainly Rob Commander.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. If you were already taking Rob Commander, there's no reason you wouldn't take Greywind. Whether or not you'd pay 5 for the combo is like, okay, that's fine because I've paid 5 and I've got an on-field attachment. Big question. I'm going to take a wild punt that all the dogs are 3. The question is
probably.
are the package complete between them? Is the package always 5? If not, you might end up with, Rickon still being 1 point, Shaggy Dog being 3 points, a 4-point package, which again, you're still like, I'm going to buy that activation for 4 points because that's just good value, to be honest. Depends
Yeah.
what exactly Shaggy's rules are, but I still think Starks are just going to lean on activation advantage to be up there as a powerhouse based on what I've seen in terms of their deck and stuff. I don't see them changing massively in that way.
No, I completely agree. Completely agree. And on that note, we should look at Rob Stark. He has an order swift retreat, which is not the same as his ability, sudden retreat. Remember that? After an enemy completes a melee attack on this unit, it performs a retreat action. So just get retreat after you get hit. And the other unit, the other ability, sorry, enhanced mobility. This unit gains +1 and may pivot before marching, which I believe is what he gives currently in the attachment variant.
Yeah.
And then we look at his. So for 2 points, enhanced mobility is okay. +1 movement is always good. Like, but for 2 points, it really is questionable whether it sees play, right? We've seen very few of the +1 movement characters at 2 points already being taken. Baratheon, for example, very rarely took Davos Commander, right? And he's a commander. He was free, and
Yeah.
he gave that ability.
Yeah.
There's other
I
ones
would
out there as well.
say I would say he sees play if people are basically willing to pay a slightly suboptimal tax to get hold of Greywind, and that's roughly where he's at. It's not do you want to pay 2 for Rob Stark? It's do you want to pay 5 for Rob and Greywind?
Yeah,
So far in my mind, it's fine that they've had attachments which were free in the past. Brienne, Harmer's Bannerman, stuff like that. Reek. They seem to be tending towards this idea that like those things have to cost points because they're not auto includes. But I feel currently I'm leaning towards if you have Rob Stark, then Greywind is auto include.
yeah,
So therefore, buying Rob as a 2-point attachment is because you want Greywind for 5 points. And that's what you're pretty much going to see them as. And you're taking him as that attachment to get Greywind because you didn't want to field Rob Stark commander. You wanted to field a different commander, but you want Greywind anyway. And that feels like a bit of a Howland with attachment Rob Stark combo at the moment. That I think that's going to be pretty legit. I'm pretty
remember
suspect playing it for.
Howland Commander actually gives disrupt to his unit, so the Greywind and Howland Commander don't stack. So the
Okay.
Howland Commander doesn't stack Grey Wind, but Howland NCU does. Um, let's look at Commander
Fair,
Rob then. We've
fair.
already seen his tactics cards. He comes with the Order Tactical Reposition. Start of an enemy turn. Interesting. Trigger. Target one friendly unit in short range, they perform a 3-inch shift. Performing a 3-inch shift is completely fine for an order. Enemy turn is interesting, but it does mean that you can put yourself in a bit of a bad position sometimes and just be like, right, I'm going to pull 3 inches back, get me out of charge arc, or get me out of charge range, or make you have to roll like 3 more to charge me, right? These are all
Hmm.
combined with Rob's other cards. I can see all of these things being very relevant. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
Regroup. After completing a retreat action, this unit restores 2 wounds plus 1 for each of its destroyed ranks. Fine.
There's tactical regroup back.
Yeah, there's Tac Regroup back, but only on his unit. Which, you know what?
Yeah,
I'm fine with that. That thematically makes sense. It makes sense that Rob does that. Yeah, that's okay. You know, Commander Rob as an
fine.
attachment, good. No, good.
It's
Free
fine.
and shift for free.
Yeah, if his shift was on any turn, I'd be really scared of it. I
Yeah,
think, oh, that's a bit powerful because that's basically like I can just sit outside of your charge range and then shift up and then charge on my turn. But that it's on your opponents means that you pretty much have to at least give them a chance to do something. You give them a chance to interact with it. That it's at the start of the turn means that if you're going to use it defensively, you're going to have to predict what's about to happen anyway. So yeah, I think he's fine. He's completely acceptable. If he's mid range, then I would say that's okay.
yeah,
Um, I don't see him being the number one start commander anymore.
yeah. Definitely. He probably isn't the number one start commander. Maybe someone else will rise. We don't know who, of course, else is due out, right? We've only seen Howland, I think, is
Hmm.
the only other commander we've seen. We haven't even seen his commander cards. Just seen the names of them. Um, yeah. So there you go. There's the article. It's taken us about an hour to do in the end, Carlo. Standard. But yeah, check it out. Check out the article. And obviously there are other content creators out there who do some good content on this stuff. So go check out all the other stuff that they're doing as well. You probably already have. Uh,
Absolutely.
they
Yeah.
put it out very quickly. Um, so
I'll
yeah,
be
go check it
listening
out.
out for old Sunday Slaughter and Weasel Kingdom's input. Always
100%.
always like to hear what they have to say. They say pretty much what we say, but in a much nicer, upbeat way, right? Isn't that isn't that
Ah,
how it goes?
sometimes they actually
Not always.
respond. They actually respond to things that we've made and like expand further on some of them and
Yeah,
like
it's like a weekly backwards and forwards chat that takes a
is
whole week to go forward. And
great.
it's playing by email.
It is.
I
Yeah.
think they're completely fine. When I saw Starks, I didn't feel anything. I sort
Yeah.
of like just looked
Yeah.
at it and I was just like, cool. And I sort of just thought, I wish that's how I felt about every faction because
Yeah.
some factions I look at and I'm like, I'm not saying you fucked up the whole balance or anything like that. Just some factions so far I'm looking at and I'm just like, I feel bad for you, man. That's not good. I'm talking specifically about Free Folk and even some others that I think they're looking a bit underpowered now that we've seen more. Greyjoys. When I look at Greyjoys, I'm like, oh, you're in for a rough road. Like that's not going to be the release that you've been promised. Like you've been promised that you've been balanced specifically for 1.7, and that you're going to have like loads of units on release and you're going to be viable. No, it's not true. I don't see it. Like we've seen practically every single one of their units except for trappers, and I don't see them competing. And then and then I also see Targs, and I'm like, okay, that's good for you guys. Like I'm really glad that you got buffed. Like you definitely needed something. But I'm like, that's too much. That's a knee jerk reaction. That's overreacting to like how bad you made them last time. Uh, so when I saw Starks, I was like, that's what I wish I felt about every release. I wish I just felt like that looks right. That looks fine. Yeah.
I actually,
And
for what it's worth, going back, I think fairly similarly about Baratheons, right? There was nothing in Baratheons that made me go, wow, that's amazing. But there's also nothing in
yeah,
Baratheons that I looked at and thought, God, that's terrible. I just kind of looked at the Baratheon
true.
deck and went, yeah, it's okay. There's clearly strong and good and bad cards in it, but it's all okay. Um, the
Yeah.
neutrals perhaps a bit like that as well. you know, the base deck. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Targs are just
the base deck, but their units. There were too many units that I was like,
yes.
oh god, no, that's strong. Uh, uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's this undercurrent of like, I don't yet understand how all this minus to hit's going to stack up. Whether or not that's really hard to understand, whether or not that's going to be meta defining. That depends on so many things. It depends on whether or not combat is really important, or if actually we're just moving into an edition where 3+ to hit at range is just like the go-to,
Yeah.
like tons of damage. Like as soon as like somebody's running 2 units in most armies and sometimes a third, like the game just becomes an archer fest, and you're like stacking minus to hit in combat is worthless.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if Targaryens like are like completely denying all archer use because their cavalry is so strong, then we might just be like cavalry charges are where the game's at, and putting minus to hit on is the most important thing that we can possibly do because you need to blunt those attacks, and that might just be like okay, Starks at minus to hit meta are like this go to number 2 in the factions.
And of
Could be
course,
really hard to place them at the moment. They seem fine, and I'm completely fine with everything I've seen.
to extend the extrapolation a little bit further, if it does become a -1 to hit meta, what's the best way to do that? Auto wounds. There's no hitting when you've got auto wounds involved. We all know how much people love auto wounds. All right, yeah, and Charles immediately jumping to that as well. All right then. So, yes. Okay then. Shall we move on and we'll look at some tournaments? But as is
Why
always the
not?
case, we've got to talk about the news this week as well. Has there been much news? Aside from the visions, not really anything major. I say major. There is one piece of news I'll come on to in a second. But yeah, I can't think of any big news, actual things that have happened. But the one thing that has happened, George's 3 Sales Gaming, George's second developer spotlight, developer talk videos, right? I know me and you talk about these videos quite a lot with some of the other players, Carlo, and like how we feel about them. I haven't listened to it yet. I do know. I think you
Me
have
neither.
you haven't listened to it yet.
No, not yet.
I am actually going to straight up say
I
this.
will. I'll get around to it.
I'm actually going to straight up say this. Having not listened to the video, I still think every 33 people.
Classic speculation.
I know, right? Classic speculation. I think every one of the 33 people here should go and watch that video because the first one was very good. The first one was very good. I've now listened to it, and
Yeah.
I cannot take it away from George whatsoever. His ability to actually
Much as
ask.
he wants to.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh, definitely. We love shitting on people here. It's our MO, right? But you can't. We just can't.
Speaking of which,
Yeah. Yeah, you guy over there. No. No. George's interviewing
speaking of which,
skills.
this week Brett got declared the master of the universe, the best Night's Watch player that ever existed, as per fucking always, as always. So I'm not gonna lie, mate. I'm not gonna lie. I was glad you lost. I was glad you lost in the World Cup.
Fair. Fair. Anyway, I'll go
Only
back to my point.
only because
I want to go back to my
the
point for a
fucking
moment.
world has declared you the best player.
In that I do recommend everyone go and watch it. And I know
Yeah,
some people are already
absolutely.
saying that they already have. George's ability to ask, and what I appreciate it,
Brett and George.
unscripted questions from George. That Fabio just has to answer raw, pure. And if Fabio's not happy with the question or whatever, he just doesn't give a very revealing answer, which, by the way, is completely fine. Like, if someone doesn't really want to answer a question, I'm actually okay with them not wanting to answer it. But, the difference is not allowing someone to even ask the question is a bit inappropriate, in my opinion. It's like the old thing in police stations, right? You don't get on someone's back because they're saying no comment. You get someone on back because they're like, oh, I don't want to answer any questions. And it's like, well, hang on. So yeah, 100% go and check out the video. I am probably going to check it out later on today, not tomorrow when I've got time. and I expect it to be very good as well. And the first one was really good. And so George, if he's listening now, if he's watching back on repeat, 100% keep it up. If there's more coming, the pipe work with Fabio, definitely do it.
Yeah, Fabio always gives pretty open and honest answers anyway. You know,
Yeah,
like
Fabio's great. Actually,
always
for
got time
all
for what Fabio's got to say. You know,
for all that we bash development and design, I mean that's again it's our MO, right? You know, Fabio is very at least
it's on Monday
honest.
night.
Monday night. He's very, very honest and open with the answers he gives. And I don't think for any minute that Fabio thinks what he's doing is a bad idea. I think for everything that Fabio does, he thinks it's good for the game. And he does it with the right heart. And he's kind of the guy, if I met for a beer and we talked about the game, I bet you any money you like it would be a brilliant conversation and we'd love it. But alas, COVID, right? And he lives in
It'd
Brazil.
be one-sided conversation of you just shouting at him.
I'm allowed to. Right. Our role in the community is to piss people off, isn't it? I think. Anyway, right. So definitely check out the video. He invokes some candid discussion. Ooh, there's James. Yeah, definitely I'll check it out. All right then. So tournament-wise, Carlo's already said it. The big one for us, of course, at the moment is the World Cup. For some reason, the site is being super slow. I definitely blame Carlo for all of this. With what being
I'm speeding it up. I'm doing some stuff. It's going to be better. I promise you.
I thought you meant now. I thought you were just going to be
Maybe.
like, take a USB stick. I'm making it faster. There you go, done. No. So.
No, when it comes in 2021, it should be faster. Believe me.
Cool.
Partly because I'll just delete all the fucking results.
Yeah.
It'll be faster to begin with.
If there's no information on the site, it'll be faster. Oh, why have we got the site again?
Yep.
Anyway, let's have a look and let's just first of all start with the players that have unfortunately left us in the tournament so far. Cover those guys first, and then we'll go through all the individual matchups and games, and obviously looking forward into the next week. So starting off, who unfortunately he did resign in the end, Furioku in the Free Folk Mirror, heading up the bottom of the table. Lost to Ray 1-0 to the US scene or the US regionals.
Close game, long game. I have to admit, it was close. Good tactical game. Very interesting. Not one for the viewers.
Definitely
but one
not.
for the analysis of good plays and bad plays. Way too much doing and undoing of checking where a mammoth can go, I think, was all of the viewers' opinions of that game.
Yeah, I mean, I ended up staying watching the whole thing pretty much. Deoxys was there. I know you bowed out, Carla, didn't you? As did many other players.
Yeah, I left before it happened.
I'll be honest with you, straight up, I'm just going to say this. Guys, if you're going to play mammoths, just go away before a game and learn how they move and learn how trample works. And I don't mean that as in just learn the game, but like, I can't abide.
Understand what's possible. Understand what angles you have to come in at to be able to like do a trample and get away with it and stuff like that. And what spacing a mammoth needs to be able to move into. For Gruselug, those two mammoths, one on each side. Each player was equally culpable of massively slow playing, massively overthinking everything, checking, double measuring, triple measuring, doing a whole move, and then just clicking undo, going back to where they were, and then just doing a totally different action instead. And it was a bit frustrating. The only thing that kept everybody there was us chatting about totally different things.
Legitimately, we talked about completely different things. Yeah, I mean, I think it was. He did resign. I think it was 3.5 hours it took them. Maybe I can't even remember. And they started like half an hour to an hour late through setup and some technical problems as well. Like it was a good nearly four. It was. I'm gonna say it was nearly 5 hours slog on the game, and it was a slog. It wasn't fun to watch. It was good analysis. It was some interesting plays, definitely, but it wasn't fun.
Yeah. But our deep math pivoted from playing Baratheons, which he won in the regional. Yep. Now he's playing Free Folk, wins a Free Folk Mirror. It's a strong start. Let's see how. I think he's got another Free Folk Mirror against Winter is Coming now. Yep. Let's see how far he goes. Interesting. Yeah, like you say, 1-0 to NA regional there.
Yep. We move on to Rossi. Next of all, Rossi lost to Zero Talk, 2-0 NA. Zero Rossi, difficult game for Rossi.
Slow start, brilliant game, absolutely brilliant game with a slightly sad ending, but
You can take away
really,
honestly, you can take away the first hour of the game, and you
yeah.
will miss essentially nothing. Um,
It is
the
recorded. It's on
yeah,
NRG, and it's really worth a watch.
the remaining hour and
But,
a half. Well, I'm not even kidding you. One of the
yeah,
best closest games I've ever seen, and it was the most
yeah.
exciting thing to watch the other hour and a half. Superb, and I do feel for Rossi. I really do. I know there was
An
some
unfortunate counting error, shall we call it, or
yeah,
mistake by the players, not picked up by either player, and it could have made quite a big difference to the game. But a really, really good Night's Watch versus Mother of Dragons game.
very
So yeah,
100%.
2-0 NA.
We next move up to Bizonko. Bizonko Malice's teammate, well, not teammate, but a guy from Slovenia, who came up through the Slovenian Masters, played in there, ran into Tobo Mott in the MOD mirror. Tobo Mott took the victory. It 3-0 to the US. He
Sounds incredibly. I've read a synopsis from it. Sounds incredibly bloody. Like they
oh, it was
just
brutal.
went at it,
By
wiped
the
each other out by turn 3.
the first activation of turn 3, basically the only thing Bizonko had left on the board was Mother of Dragons and 2 Blackguards left, and he just resigned
Wow.
basically and just said,
Yeah.
right, I'm just dead, because he would have been dead.
Fair play.
Yeah, incredibly brutal, and it was a direct mirror as well. Bizonko ran his Mother of Dragons list with Varys, Walder, Tycho, and the Blackguards, and Tobo. I thought Tobo would run, and I think a lot of us thought he would run the Bolton Cutthroats Jorah list, because that is specifically designed to go into the mirror and be beneficial, and he did
That's what
not.
I think.
He ran the Tycho, Varys, Walder list with the Blackguards as well. It was a 100% identical mirror, and
I
yeah,
assume he was scared that Jorah would be exploited as
perhaps.
being marked and then be easy VPs or something. But I feel like the extra activation just puts you like in a really
Oh yeah,
strong position.
it's not just that.
So I am interested why you went for that.
Illyrio as well.
From the brief
Reactivation.
reading of it, it's possibly just came down to Tobo Mott got 4 out of 4 successes with Varys, which is hard. When someone hits 4 out of 4 with Varys, it's hard. It's hard times. And particularly with 4 Varys being used in such a tight space of time, effectively you only played 2 turns plus 1 extra activation. That's going to be a huge amount of shutdown. Clearly well played. Players taking their risks, but it possibly just came down to those 4 dice. The game could easily have been different based on different roles, and that's what happens when people play identical mirrors and they're both good players.
Yeah. 3-0 to the US after that. Then we saw myself versus N-Line on Saturday. Richard's probably watching tonight. Maybe he's all watching on record. Does big fan of the show and stuff we do. Lovely guy as well. Very good player. You saw the game, didn't you, Carlo? I think you watched it live in Discord. I'll let you talk about it because obviously I played it. My opinion is irrelevant, really.
Yeah, of the 8 games that happened, I would say it was the biggest blowout of all of them. Actually, it was very, very aggressive free folk playing and exploiting some Lannisters, which I just think that the list couldn't quite cut it at that level. Like I do honestly think that Enline's a great player, but when it comes to this level, we'll look at the whole total at the end. But 2 Night's Watch were in this round and 1 Lannister. And I told you last week, go back and watch. Last week I said nothing except Mother of Dragons, Starks, and Free Folk will make it out of this round. And guess what? Lannisters lost, Night's Watch lost, Night's Watch lost. All but the power players are gone. And it's unfortunate, but that's the state of play when really, really good players are playing. You can't be playing B tier lists, and Lannisters generally are B tier lists. You did well to pressure Tyrion really fast, really early, be super aggressive, because Tyrion can be very, very good in the later rounds. He can be super, super oppressive in rounds 5 and 6. But Starks, Lannisters, and Free Folk, Starks, Mother of Dragons, and Free Folk all have the ability to just oppress Tyrion really fast before he can do anything. And that's why I don't think that at the very top level, Tyrion actually cuts it as much as people think he does. He can be really, really annoying at a mid-ish level. But, I still think that Lannisters just don't have a list that can quite compete up here.
Fair enough. Yeah, definitely fair. And it was pretty sad. I will just recount the last wound. I did unfortunately wipe his entire army off the field. And hilariously, the last wound he took, I'd attacked him with a unit of it was like raiders with Steer in, and Steer did all but one wound to this Lannister unit of Classy Rock. They took the panic check. They passed. They were inside of a Weirwood range, and then my Raiders crit panic failed. I lost a wound. I lost a rank, causing go down fighting from Steer to proc, and it did the last wound to the Knights of Castle Rock. It was pretty savage. It was also really, it was sad. But yeah, anyway, yeah, great game obviously, and yeah, well played. End line 3-1 to the US. Bolton Skincare next up in the game against Larks. I didn't see the whole game. I saw most of it.
It was a good one.
It was a good one. Yeah.
It was patient. It was slow, as in a lot of positional play, but not slow. Some players just play slow. They take a long time to make their decisions. They take a long time to move their stuff. It was played at a good pace. The players were playing quickly, but it was a slow, thoughtful, precise game. I mean, nearly every game with Larks is anyway. Larks is a very slow, methodical, patient player. Larks has always showed his ridiculous levels of patience. When I was convinced that he was losing the game and he needed to go out there and attack, he just continued to stay in the middle ground and not make any aggressive moves. And he eventually won out the day, managing. It was a Stark mirror, both with 2 dogs, both marked the dogs, both eventually killed the dogs. Larks actually, with basically his last activation of the game, he went out there with his Outriders. But there was a lot of build up to that, of each chipping away and scoring VPs here and there. I thought it was a brilliant game.
I honestly, I think Chris Sunday, Bolton, whichever you want to call him, one of his many names on the online, but Chris just purely and simply ran out of steam. He ran out of steam before Larks did, and I don't think he played a bad game. I just think he ran out of steam just before Larks did, and it's as simple as that. I would have to go back and watch the game again to spot mistakes or bad plays or anything like that, but I didn't see anything. The only thing that I think perhaps was a mistake was the way he moved the dog on the last round, and we're talking about a mistake that I don't even think it would have made much difference, because I think he would have just lost a different unit instead.
Yeah.
I genuinely don't think Chris could have played much better.
Yeah, I think that personally, likely he would have had a slightly better chance. I think it's a slight difference between a Roose-led Stark list versus a Howland-led Stark list. I just don't think that Roose had the cards to push it over and to finish the game off, but Howland did. Howland with his own activation ability. I think he just had a bit more value over the whole game. And Howland, his cards and his ability just stacked up to be more than Roose and his cards and his ability.
Yeah. And I will go as far as saying, I think Chris, he wanted to take Roose and Ramsay because it's, his heart, his neutral heart. But he knew how to play Starks to be competitive. And, I think Chris showed that he knew kind of a little bit, that I think he kind of knew that he would probably go out, I think. But he proved that he is a very good player in the process.
Absolutely.
To be honest.
Yeah.
I definitely wouldn't look at his performance. I definitely wouldn't look at his performance and be like,
Starks, playing Free Folk, playing neutrals, showing he can compete and do well with all of them. That's really where the good players are at.
Yeah, I know. I mean, for that game alone, to be honest, I'd happily give him a clap for that one, because that was it was a good game, and he does deserve, he definitely deserved to be there, and he proved that. So well done, Chris. Rohan next. So that's 3-2 to the US. Rohan next played against Deoxys. Now, I didn't see the game, but I know Deoxys told me about it. It was to put it bluntly, it was super easy, and then it wasn't. Deoxys ran away with the game a little bit. He was beating up Rohan, and then Rohan with his mammoths basically nearly won the game, and nearly came back
That's
into it.
impressive.
And
That's impressive because Free Folk don't have a ton of comeback mechanics. They're not really a comeback faction. Like not the way Starks are. Starks never ever count Starks out. They've got so many things to get you back with.
yeah,
But yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Both are Canadian entrants tumbling out. But the
3-3.
Oxys remains my number one pick overall. I still think he's gonna win after he beats you this round.
Oh, I better practice then. Well, not practice, but just think about the list all week. Yeah. So 3-3, 3-3 to EU US. It's a draw currently. We'll keep going. Claw with his Night's Watch lost to Tom Tyler. We actually covered this last week. Technically, the game happened last weekend. Yeah. Don't know a huge amount of the game. I don't want to speculate on it, but I believe it was quite a close game. It was a narrow margin victory. Tom Tyler eking it out towards the end. Doxy saying never mark a mammoth. Yes, don't mark a mammoth. Or do. That's the play. So yeah, I don't know much about them. We'll just move on. 4-3 to the EU, and that takes us to the last game, which is convenient. Malleus versus Jon Snow, Groupie, aka let's just get rid of that name, Brett. This was a bit grueling. I'm not gonna lie. It was a fairly long game, longer than I thought it was gonna take. Doxy's joined me last night. I'm gonna say something Brett doesn't like. Brett, you lost the game, but also you lost the game because Malleus did play you. Malleus put some things out there and went, I am gonna put these things in your way, and if you don't deal with these in the right way, the chance you'll lose. And partially unluckiness, perhaps, partially bad play. Not significantly bad play. We're talking about charging a unit in the front with set for charge and it just did 8 wounds or knock you down to 2 ranks. Then the final strike did the 4 remaining wounds to your unit and you lost Rob, and it was that was a 4-point victory swing. That was literally incredible. You can't plan for that.
It was interesting. It was interesting because I semi-watched the game. You commentated the game. You spent a lot of time talking. You and Deoxys talking about the fact that Malleus held a lot of cards. You were like, he couldn't possibly have cards that he cares about in his hand right now. Why has he kept hold of them? You also talked a lot about the fact that he moved Styre up, put down a token, moved him back. You actually questioned a lot of his plays. And when I left the game, he was 6-5 down, or I think he was 6-5 up, about to kill a unit and go 7-5 up. Sorry, 7-6 up. Get it right. He was about to do that, and honestly, I left really not long before the game ended, and I left thinking, "There's no way Brett can lose this game," and I expected to get up to it being 4-4, EU to NA qualifiers. Particularly at 4-1 or something like that, I absolutely thought there's no way Brett can lose this game. And yet, so I'm not saying Brett threw away. What I'm actually sort of interestingly saying is you were questioning a lot of Malleus's plays, but he clearly did something right. He really managed to get back into the game from a couple of positions that I thought were really, really unfavorable to him. And so big props, we're not seeing him playing before. We're not seeing him on the international TTS tournaments. So let's see how far he can go. He's got a big game straight away, right? Got to play plays into locks.
Definitely. Now I would go as far as saying I think I perhaps misquoted or misspoke before, saying Brett played badly or anything. Brett did not play badly. That's the point. Brett did send me a lot of messages straight after the game, which he then deleted, I think, because he was angry. But he did make a few mistakes that he highlighted. Everyone makes mistakes, right? And when you've just lost a game like that very close, you're going to absolutely trawl through your mistakes and try and find any way in which you could have been better. But I actually think that Malleus played a very gambit play. He kept playing this gambit of, I'm going to do this, and if it works, it's going to work well.
Mm-hmm.
And he did it the first time, and actually, if you watch the game, he threw the Cave Dweller and the Mammoth in, and he killed Bran Hodor, great, but actually, basically the gambit didn't work, right? He went 4-1 down with the gambit play.
Yeah.
And basically, it was all looking, as you say, it was all looking really shiny for Brett. He just brought the Cave Dweller Savages back on, retreated back off, and went, right, okay, was going to gambit it again. And he gambited it again, and Brett even did some really good plays by not killing a lone trapper so that Steer's reactivation card couldn't come down that turn if Malleus had it. There was some clear, well thought out plays throughout the whole game. It's just that Malleus kept throwing these gambits at him, and eventually Brett just lost a gambit. He lost that gambit, and the game went away from him.
I do think it's really, really interesting, because I do think that there is currently a tendency in competitive play that that players are incredibly risk adverse. It does seem to be the better strategy. Players they just play to not make any mistakes. They don't play to win the game. They play to not lose the game. I think that's specific. Like, that's always exactly how I describe the way Larks plays. And actually, one of the reasons why I like Deoxys' play so much more, and why I think that I'm backing Deoxys to win, is that he plays a much more aggressive style. He goes out there and he puts himself on the board and goes to win the game. Whereas I think there are some players out there, a lot of players, who are playing to not lose, rather than playing to win. And I was just surprised that, like, Malleus went out there and he made plays to win. Even when I didn't think he could win, he was still making plays to try and win the game. And yeah, I was super impressed. Like, actually, for like first time seeing him, I just thought, like, boom, that's good play. When I saw him throw those cave dwellers in and then start manipulate the mammoth in ways that it was like, yeah, you're going to hit my mammoth, but he's not going to be dead. And then I'm going to trample again, and I'm going to trample again. And then eventually he got brought down. I was like, okay, but I saw what you did. And like, I actually really liked it. That's a play that I would have been too scared to make. There's a play that I wouldn't have seen you making as my opponent. I would have thought, oh, he's never gonna trample me with that mammoth, and then you just go and do it. I'd be like, and I'm like, okay, but so what do I actually do in response? Like, I can hurt you, but I can't kill you, and now I'm gonna get trampled. And now we're in a trading mentality, and most people aren't like willing to play trading games. And so I was actually like really surprisingly impressed with Malleus's play. It was different to the way everybody else is playing right now, I think.
No, definitely. And I really appreciated it, because he did what I've done before, and he killed his own unit with Regroup and Reform at the end of the game. And he played a 100% risky play where he kills his own unit in the hopes that he can make a charge to kill a wolf. And then he has the Steer reactivation card, which allows him to reactivate and then potentially kill the wolf again. Like, I've done that before with Feast for Crows to generate corpse piles and things like that. It was really good. And actually, when I played Malleus in the regionals, I did exactly that. We were both killing our own units. It was clear to me when I played against Malleus in that game that he had a very good understanding of Free Folk. Much better than a lot of the other players I've played against in the Free Folk mirror. There were still some things at the time he learned, but straight after the game ended, he came to me, and I think this again was like, shows me as a player how important it was. Is he came straight to me, and I think his first words was like, "That was intense, thanks. Did I fuck up many things?" Like, he didn't come out that game being like, "I played really well, I won." He was like, "What do you think I fucked up?" And like, 100%. Like, I know it's difficult to lose a game, but man, anyone come out of a game like that, if they've just won and they're like, "Okay, what mistakes did I make?" Like, hands off to that kind of person. He is 100%, I think, a very good player. I think he's a very good player.
Yeah.
Regroup and Reform were better odds than taking the Jod charge. Yes, they were, Tevs.
5-3 EU to USA.
Yes. 5-3.
Who had bets on that? Who had bets on that?
I don't think anyone
that was
did.
Roughly what most people predicted.
I think most people said 6-2, right? 6-2 and 4-4 were the common ones. I don't actually think anyone predicted in the middle. Not, at least no one I know predicted straight up and said in the middle. But but I think it's not. It wouldn't have been unreasonable. And interestingly, Malleus is actually in chat. Tevs is in chat there saying regroup and reform were the better odds than taking the dog charge, which they were. Correct play.
So what we have is we have a whole EU side now, and then we have Tom Tyler waving his little British flag in amongst the NA regional. So it's actually been it's interesting. Either Tom fights his way out of a corner. I mean, there are actually technically, I mean, there's actually only one US player. There's only one NA player left in the tournament. There's actually two from Asia. It's actually three if you count Deoxys as not a Euro player, which if we're not counting them as NA, then we shouldn't really be counting Deoxys as Euro.
I agree.
I mean, actually, it's four EU, three Australasia, one NA, which is interesting. But either Tom Tyler fights his way out of that corner, or basically it's going to be NA, one side of the bracket, EU, other side. They'll meet in the final, which would be interesting.
Yeah, so going into the matchups, we have Winter versus R Deep. That's going to be a Free Folk mirror happening up here in this top right-hand corner of the bracket. In the bottom right-hand corner, we have Tobo versus Zero Talk. I believe this is don't know if they played in the regionals, but it's a Mother of Dragons mirror. Well, Targaryen mirror, but let's face it, they'll run Mother of Dragons. Interesting, the Clash of Kings. We haven't seen Mother of Dragons on Clash of Kings yet. We'll see how that plays out. Then in the bottom left corner, we have Larks versus Malleus, Free Folk versus Stark, and in the top left, myself versus Deoxys, another Free Folk versus Stark. Let's go. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how it pans out. We will, of course, be trying to give you all the news next week, and watch out for as many games. We will try and stream as many of them as we can. Thanks to all the people who did stream this week. I think Sunday streamed one of the games. I can't remember which one it was. I think he did some streaming. And the guys over there. I know that Van was streaming as some games as well. Of course, I tried to pick up some of the games as well. The Endline game that I played is recorded, so that will be going up on the NRG YouTube channel as well as soon as possible when we can put it up. So as many of them as we could probably catch have been recorded and are up, ready to be viewed. Yeah, awesome. Other tournaments, right? Other tournaments.
There aren't any. There aren't any, Mickey.
There are some. Just want to give a shout out to them. I'm feeling like a nice guy today. Bash is entered its second week. Yeah, how's that going? We talked about it last week, right? But going well.
I'm making a video of my game this week. So watch out for. I won't be playing it until next weekend, and then I'll take a bit of editing. It's going to be a new style battle report. I'm going to bring you a new battle report, which isn't really a battle report because I don't actually really like battle reports. So I'm going to tell you what I wished battle reports were. Maybe other people will copy me. Maybe people won't like it. Whatever. What it'll actually be is me playing. I'll put the game on fast, and I will tell you from a first-person perspective what I'm doing and why, and what tactics they are. I don't know whether or not people will like it.
No, I mean, it's something we've talked about, and whether or not like something I would do, but honestly, time is a thing. But I'm confused because you said that you are going to be making, which is very weird because I'm pretty sure you were editing it yesterday, which means that, hey, you remember editing videos, Carlo? It takes time, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. I just wanted to double check
I've done my intro already. So here's the thing. This is my promise to you. I've already predicted entirely how the game's going to go, and I recorded my entire prediction for what the game will be. And now I'm going to play the game in a week's time, and we'll see whether or not I could actually predict exactly what will happen in the game. I've predicted what list he will pick, what list I will pick, and basically what that means for the matchup and why I still think I'm going to win.
I really hope you lose. Anyway.
Yeah, lose. If I lose, the video's still going to go up.
I think you should put it up. You should put it up.
Yeah.
So that
win or lose, I'll show you what I predicted and what did and didn't happen.
I think as a little thing, I think you should put the and this is not trying to exclude people. I think you should actually put the intro, the patrons up, so patrons can view it beforehand. I obviously know that if you put it up so everyone can view it, technically your opponent could come and see it, and then there'd be other things. But I think you should put it up so patrons can see it and we can start criticizing you before the game rather
All
than
right
doing it
then.
all after the
Go on
game.
then.
There you go.
Go on then. You can sit and watch the 45 minutes of my prediction of how the game goes.
Hey, hey, Carlo.
It's mostly a prediction about the list.
People pay for Patreon status, and we don't provide them with anything of any use. So look, I'm trying to get their
Oh, they get tournaments ish, and more tournaments that I intend to run and then don't run, and then yeah, tournaments.
Hey, look, I'm just trying to represent the patrons there. But of course, it will be going live to
You are
everybody as well. It'll be going to everybody, but just giving those guys a sneak
eventually.
peek, mainly so they
Once
can
it's
pick you up
actually
on it.
good content, everybody else gets to see it, but the Patreons can see it while it's still crap.
Yeah. Plus, they can pull you apart if you get it wrong.
What an honorable position they live in.
They can pull you apart and get it wrong because you'll definitely re-record the video and
Exactly.
pretend it's different. Anyway, welcome to 2021 is, I believe, now over. I don't know if the last game has actually been played. I think it has all been played. And we see Bloodraven with his Lannisters. What a surprise, coming in top dog. I think he's won the tournament with 1 loss, 4 wins. Doxy's backs that up by 3 wins, 2 losses, and there's been a mix underneath that as well. Of course, it's an ELO event, so not necessarily winning every game is going to win the tournament. It's all about what commander you
Doxy's
use.
not going quite as well as he claimed he would. He
Mhm.
told me that he was going to have won by the 4th round. He wasn't even going to have to play the 5th round, but clearly. So who did he lose to in his 4th round game?
Bloodraven? No,
He
he
lost
lost.
to Blood.
He won. He won. Oh my god, I can't read. Yeah, he lost to Bloodraven. God, I just read the points destroyed number as the victory points. Wow. He lost to Bloodraven, and he
But that's
also
what
lost to
happens
Jon Snow.
That's what happens when a good player takes one of the worst rated commanders in the game, does better than most, but still can't, go 5 victories with it.
Yep. He also lost to Brett, so I mean, bit crap, isn't he? No, no. Brett running off meta Starks, Brynden, and Roderick. Blackfish, man. We did a video on Blackfish. Blackfish never does well. One game mode, right? One game mode, and that's it. Anyway.
I don't think the game is even that game mode anymore.
No.
I don't think that game mode even exists.
It literally doesn't even exist.
But there we go.
So
Jesus,
yeah.
it's 2 hours. Why is 20 grand always 2 hours long now?
Because it takes us an hour to do the bloody visions. Anyway, any other tournaments? I think that's it. It's all I think we're going to talk about this week. Yeah, you make a good point. We should probably end it soon. So yeah, we'll obviously be watching out for all the other stuff coming up. Just another shout out to the replacement event for Adepticon in 2021, happening at the end of March for those guys in the US. Get yourself signed up. Contact Brett if you want any more information on it. It's all on the site anyway. But do get yourself checked out. And if you're in the UK, A Song of Ice and Fire Grand Tournament, obviously splash art at the start of the video, is going to be coming back.
And if you're not in the UK, if you live in anywhere in Europe,
yep,
and think that you'll be able to COVID travel safely in September, of course.
We've had a couple of people. I know that the likes of Rossi and people like that have been saying that they'll be coming over. I'm actually just looking forward to it, to be honest, because I think it's going to be my first proper tournament, like after COVID, hopefully. And more importantly, it's just going to be an excuse to meet all of the pretty awesome people I get to meet in the community online anyway. Just names and faces, like just even going down and meeting Chris. I know you've met him in person. I've never met Chris Eustace in person. Even that alone is good enough for me. The likes of Tom Tyler, I hope, is there. George will probably be there. We'll definitely throw some insults and beers at George, and he'll probably throw some insults at beers at us. Classic.
Yeah.
No, I just really think it's going to be really good, and I hope it's a really good tournament, and I hope that we as the UK and Europe. Not saying that obviously US players, if you can make it over, that would be incredible, but I'm not expecting it. It'd be just great to see everyone and to play lots of bloody A Song of Ice and Fire, right?
Have a strong resurgence in the summer when possible. The game needs to recover out of 2021. Like 2021 balance, it needs a strong bounce back, a strong regrowth. Otherwise, it will always be smaller than it deserves to be because it's a great game. It deserves to be bigger and better than the other games at this tournament. So I hope that it is bigger and better than everything but Games Workshop, because that would be unimaginable that you could have a bigger tournament than Games Workshop. But it's a better game than Games Workshop, so
It is. Fuck you, Game Workshop. Anyway, right. We'll end it there for this week, guys. It's been a pleasure to have you all tune in as well, including some people putting names again. Tevs, thanks for coming along. I think it's the first time I've seen you here. Some other guys as well. 100% thanks for coming along, participating, throwing your ideas and thoughts in. And yeah, we'll probably catch you at the weekend. I imagine that's when I'll be streaming next, if there's going to be any games. I don't imagine I'm going to do much this week. So catch us at the weekend over at the NRG. Or, of course, we'll catch you here next week when they no doubt show off Night's Watch or Lannister.
yeah.
Which one?
That's the
Which
two
one do
that
you
are
want to
left.
show? Which one do you want to show, Carlo? Night's Watch and Lannister.
I don't care either. Actually, I'll be absolutely fine with either. I think I'm interested to see which way both go. If it's Night's Watch, I'd be interested to see what's happening with War Machines. I'd be disappointed if none of the reveals included either the Stone Thrower or the Scorpion, or like any of their mods or any of the things going on with that. So yeah, I'd like them to show a bit of the builder side, and sort of like the sub factions within Night's Watch, the way they're going to be kind of represented. For Lannisters, I'd love to see Knights of Castle Rock. We managed to get through Starks. We saw dogs. That's what we wanted to see. But we've still not seen Lance Cavalry. We still don't know what they look like. I'd be super interested to know whether or not Knights of Castle Rock are still at 8, to see what they look like. And really, I'd like to see a like Lannister Supremacy unit. I'm leaning towards Warrior Sons. I want to see Warrior Sons. That's what I
Good
hope
point.
to see.
Yeah, I want to see Warrior Sons. Oh, Poor Fellows, right? Or Poor Fellows, and see how they change.
Yeah, I'd be fine with Poor Fellows, but Warrior Sons are actually the ones that I want to see. So I'd be happy with, I'd like to see something faith based. I'd like to see how that will be represented, if that will be significantly different.
And Warrior Sons, they're a unit that really has never. I'm blatantly saying they've just never been good. They've never been competitively good, and it would be really good to see them have some time in the sunlight, because they're wicked models, they're wicked units. The idea and the concept is brilliant. It's just never been great. Anyway, we'll leave it there. Brett's obviously saying it won't be Night's Watch. I'm pretty sure Brett's just saying, if we just said, if someone had just said Lannisters, Brett would have just said it won't be Lannisters. He's just trolling. But we'll see. Yeah, he could of course be trolling by saving the Night's Watch. And yes, Hobbit pissing all over his GW stuff. I've done that. He says, with a big box of orcs and goblins for Gorka Morka. And yeah. Anyway, guys, we will leave it there, and we will see you next week. Take it easy, guys. Have a good week.
Bye bye.